In this video I want to show you a game which in my view is the best action RPG ever. But what makes a good action RPG? Authentic towns, full of secret details, inhabited by NPCs who react to your actions.
Sheathe your sword.
Creatures that don't just wait for the player to come around, but behave like species in an ecosystem, a living, breathing world. Multiple ways to explore that world, like free climbing, swimming and diving. Believable characters, well-written dialogues,
Horson's neck deep in shit.
an interesting storyline, and a skill system allowing you to really get better over time, making you feel the progress. Of course there's much more that makes a great RPG, and there's much more about The Witcher 3 that makes it a great RPG, like decisions and consequences, well-animated cutscenes or horse riding. But I picked out the aspects that can also be found in a game that this video is going to be about. I want to show you that much of what makes The Witcher 3 and other modern RPGs great already existed in this game. It was totally ahead of its time when it came out, but it never got the attention it deserves. It offers all the features I just mentioned and many more. But it was made before action RPGs as we know them today even existed, in 2001. Gothic was developed by a small German company called Piranha Bytes. The game begins as the player enters an open-air prison. The colony, a valley surrounded by a magical barrier which makes it impossible to escape.
Welcome to the colony.
Inside the barrier, the prisoners are forced to dig magical ore for the king, who delivers them groceries and other goods in exchange. The colony has its very own rules, since the prisoners have total control over it. Most people in the so-called Valley of Mines are assholes, and since you're a total pushover in the beginning, you have to be careful how you talk to people.
Where do you think you're going?
To the camp.
You ain't come to make trouble, have you?
Sure. I plan to take on the whole camp.
Hey, this guy's funny. I don't like funny guys. Try that again, and you'll regret it.
But what makes this game so special? The amount of realistic and unique features in it is absolutely stunning, both what the player can do in the world and how the world around him seems to be alive and reacts to him. Here are some examples. Free climbing is possible on all edges, ladders can also be used. The player can swim and even dive. Benches and chairs can be used, not only by NPCs but also by the player, just like all sorts of objects in the world, for example loots, hammers, pots, pans, water pipes and measures. You can even forge your own swords. The day-night cycle makes it necessary to use torches at night, but they can also be used to inflame campfires and other torches. Beds can be used to change the time of day by sleeping. NPCs have a day-night cycle, which means that by day they do their work or go for a pee. In the evening they relax at a bonfire or get hammered in a tavern, and at night they sit around in their huts or sleep. That's the best time to sneak into their huts and pick the locked chests there. But don't get caught. They don't want you to enter their private space.
Hey you! Get out of here!
They also react to aggressive behavior.
Put the weapon away if you don't want any trouble.
Their reaction depends on whether they are stronger or weaker than you. Someone who maybe growled at you for drawing your sword can get scared when you do the same thing later in the game, when you've become strong and powerful.
No sweat. You've won.
If you stand in someone's way, he will also act on it.
May I pass through here?
When an NPC defeats you, he takes your ore, which is the currency in this game, and he does it with a real plunder animation.
I suppose you don't have nothing against me keeping some more.
The game makes a difference between defeating someone and killing him, so when you defeated someone you can still decide whether to let him get up again or to kill him. The weapons you see on an NPC are the ones he really carries in his inventory. If you defeat him, you can take all from him, including these weapons. Monsters have a day-night cycle too. When they are asleep, you can stalk them and take them by surprise. And they are more than just bloodthirsty creatures. They behave like species in their natural environment. When you get too close to them, they warn you first by making a threatening gesture before they try to kill you. Each kind of monster has its own behavior. Snappers, for example, sneak up on you, so sometimes you might walk through the colony with a bunch of snappers sneaking behind you and waiting for the right moment to attack. One way to get rid of them is killing some other monsters, since snappers love cadavers and will immediately stop following you when they can get some. Scavengers hate bloodflies and will always try to kill them when they're getting in their way. Some monsters can also swim. Gothic has more authenticity and details in it than most modern games do. There are no invisible walls, just a magical barrier which borders the colony. Places you should not get to yet are filled with strong beasts, nearly impossible to kill for a newbie.
You better not stay here. The orc land starts behind that barricade.
This way the world gets bigger in time as the player gets stronger. The colony is not a large world, but it's filled with interesting stuff wherever you go. Fast travel also is much more immersive than in most other games. You do not click on a point on the map to get somewhere. Instead, you receive magical runes later in the game which allow you to teleport to specific places. There are 3 totally different camps inside the colony. The old camp is the one which changes its all for goods with the king. Most people in this camp are diggers, who are supposed to work in the old mine. The camp is controlled by Gomez, the leader of the ore barons. Although he once was a simple prisoner too, he treats diggers like dirt.
You just come marching in here and expect me to concern myself with you, you worm?
Guards! It was a good fight.
The new camp was founded by those who were not willing to dig ore for the king and live in bondage of Gomez. They grow rice to be independent. The new camp also has a mine, but the ore from there is used to set up a massive ore mount which the water mages plan to blow up to destroy the magical barrier. The swamp camp is inhabited by those who believe in a god called the Sleeper. They pray to him because they believe that one day he will free them from the colony. But most members of this camp are there because they like smoking the swamp weed which grows there. They also trade off the swamp weed against goods from the other camps. Each of the 3 camps has its totally unique atmosphere. There are lots of NPCs, some of them minding their own businesses, others hanging out with their friends. Each NPC has his own hut where he sleeps at night, and all buildings fit perfectly into their environment. The great soundtrack by composer Kai Rosenkranz does a fantastic job by giving each camp a different soul. In the beginning, the player is a nobody who has to decide which camp he wants to join. Thereby he also decides which class he chooses. Each camp offers different skills, armors, weapons or spells. For every level up you get 10 skill points, but you cannot simply use them in a skill menu. It's much more immersive. You have to use them to learn from teachers. So if you want to get stronger or fight better, you actually have to find an NPC who knows how to do that and learn from him.
I want to improve my handling of one-handed weapons.
Beginners often tend to hold one-handed weapons with both hands. Hold the weapon with one hand, blade up, and keep swinging it.
But you are not forced to learn only skills that are typical for your class. A mage can also learn how to shoot a crossbow or wield a big axe. The great thing about Gothic skill system is how you feel the progress directly. You start off as a total loser who can't defend himself against anything and become a total badass later in the game. Monsters also don't scale up, so this wall for example always stays the same. Impossible to kill in the beginning, or one hit later in the game. By choosing a camp you decide about much more than just what skills you can learn. It's most about philosophy and mentality, what attitude you can identify with mostly.
And what am I expecting here?
There are no guards or Templars to look after you. It's every man for himself. The only ones who stick together are us mercenaries.
The camps do also feel alive because of the many different characters, their believable problems and how they treat the player. Some are just arrogant and nasty, forcing you to do beastly jobs.
Hey, just arrived. We need somebody to take some water to the peasants in the rice fields.
Others are in the same position as the player and search for help.
I've been working my ass off in the mines for the last 2 weeks. And what for? Some sad lumps of ore is all I got.
And some are just crazy.
My servants call me Bonnet Beck.
Servants? I don't see any servants.
They're everywhere. The trees, they walk and skip and dance.
Oh, I see. Well, I'll be on my way then.
Wait, you can help me convert this swamp into a massive meadow of flowers.
In the beginning, the game demonstrates you in every possible way that you're weak and new to this dangerous and ruthless world. By dialogues.
I'm warning you, people like you can get into trouble awfully quick round here. Gomez wants some peace in the camp, and we guards make sure he gets it. But it's a job that doesn't come cheap. That's why I'm asking you for some ore.
By enemies much stronger than you.
It was real cool of you to refuse to pay him protection money. I'll make sure you remember next time he asks you. He's had enough. Try that again and you'll regret it.
Or just by the fact that you don't get any help from the game itself. If you want a map of the world, you first have to buy one.
I'd like to buy a map.
You don't have any weapons but your fists in the beginning. It's up to you to find your first sword. There are no tutorials, autosaves, quest markers, just the hero's logbook informing you about open quests. Gothic is all about learning by doing it, finding out about the game's mechanics on your own. Although the game is hard in the beginning, it takes it slow in terms of storytelling. The whole storyline is split into 6 chapters, and the first one is basically about joining one of the 3 camps. This is definitely the most important choice to make in the game, so every camp should be visited and explored, which takes many hours of gameplay, since there's a lot to do. Once you've joined a camp, the story speeds up and goes a way you would not expect at the beginning, but I don't want to spoil anything. Your best would be to play the game yourself if you haven't already. If that's the case and the game causes issues on a newer Windows version, just install a mod called Gothic 1 System Pack. It's linked in the description below. So is also a video about Gothic's unusual controls, in case you're having problems with them. And for all those who complain about the old-fashioned graphics, a Gothic Reloaded mod is in the making. All in all, Gothic is still a fantastic game with a very unique and tight atmosphere. In my opinion, it's the best game ever made. It's old, but it's totally worth it. Give it a try.
Another convict was brought to the cliff. He did not know, but he would change everything.